Now, it was February 14th, 2017. The bodies of Abigail Williams and Liberty German, the one at one's 13, one's 14, they were found near the Monon High Bridge Trail. Now, this is in Delphi, Indiana. For many of you guys know of this story. This is going to be the first time on this channel we've done a comprehensive look at the entire case. I believe we did this story when it first came out, things like that. But that was before I really got into true crime, and I wanted to kind of give my input on this case. Now, as everybody knows, these murders, they basically ended up missing the day before on February 13th. The murders got nationwide coverage all over the place. There was audio and video recording of someone that they claim could be the killer. On October 26th of this very year, a suspect was taken into custody and charged with 2 counts of murder. We are going to be talking about this. I'm going to let you know, I don't think they got the right guy. We're going to go over this entire case. We're going to take a look at some of the old news stories, new news stories. We're going to do the whole thing. I'm JB Gunner. This is Crime Time with JB Gunner. Let's do it.
Bring it back.
All right. Now, most of you guys know of this case as the Delphi case, right? It was 1:30 p.m. on February 13th of 2017. 13-year-old Abigail Joyce, known as Abby Williams, and 14-year-old Libby was what they called her, German, were dropped off by German's older sister, Kelsey German, on Country Road 300 North, east of the Hoosier Heartland Highway. Now, the girls were hiking on the Monon High Bridge Trail over Deer Creek. I actually used to live up there in Indianapolis, and I lived in Indiana for about 25 years, so I know pretty much about this area. It was right around the Deer Creek Township at around 2:07 p.m. Libby posted a photo of Abby walking on the bridge, and after this, they were never seen or heard from again. They were reported missing at about 5:30 p.m. after they failed to meet Liberty's father at 3:15. The families initially searched for the girls themselves, but then they ended up calling the police. Authorities who quickly searched the area did not initially suspect foul play in the disappearance. However, this changed when the bodies of the girl were found around noon the next day, about a half a mile, more like a quarter mile, east of the abandoned Monon High Bridge Trail, the bridge itself. The bodies were found on the north bank of Deer Creek. Now, many of you guys know that during this 6-year period, there's been many suspects. The investigation, in my opinion, has been fucked up the entire time, and we're going to get into a little bit of this. Police have not released details on how the girls were murdered. As early as February 15, 2017, Indiana State Police began circulating a still image of an individual reportedly seen on the Monon High Bridge Trail. Now, this image was the image that was known as the bridge guy. This is the guy that they found. This image in this video was found on, I believe, Libby's telephone. Let's go ahead and keep going. Let's keep going. Anyways, the still image of an individual reportedly seen on the trail near where the 2 girls were slain. The grainy photograph appears to capture a Caucasian male, hands in pockets, head down, walking on the rail bridge towards the girls. A few days later, the person in the photograph was named as the prime suspect in the double homicide. Now, I'm going to start things off right now by saying, why would that be the case? I get it. He was there. He's down the hill. I get all of that. But I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if anyone's ever actually considered, what if the bridge man was not the guy that actually killed the kids? We'll get to that a little bit as we go, right? On February 22nd, law enforcement released an audio recording where the voice of the suspect, although muffled, is heard to say down the hill. At this news conference, officials credited the source of the audio and imagery to German's smartphone, and further regarded her as a hero for having had the presence of mind and fortitude to secretly record the exchange. Hero, I don't know about that, but it was definitely smart. It was definitely smart. I don't know what's heroic about it. Smart, yes. And I'm one of the things that's stuck with me all these years is why wasn't the cell phone, like, why why didn't the killer grab the cell phone? It makes me believe that the killer could have possibly been a little bit older, and so maybe the technology, he was easy to get something over on, right? Maybe he didn't understand the technology. Maybe he didn't even think that she could have been recording it. He saw her with the phone, clearly. In my opinion, he saw her with the phone. Now, she may have put it back in her pocket. That's why the audio was muffled. But in my opinion, because he had passed them already and they were taking pictures and doing all this, he saw the phone. But anyway, we'll continue, okay? Police indicated that additional evidence from this phone had been secured but would not release further details so as to not compromise any future trial. By this time, the reward offered in the case was set at $41,000. Now, on July 17th, officers distributed a composite sketch of someone who, at the time in the investigation, was sought as a person of prime interest in the murders. It had apparently been drawn by police from eyewitnesses to a certain hiker of the Delphi historic trails on the day the girls vanished. On April 19th of 2019, this is years later, Indiana State Police announced a new direction in the case. They actually released a new image. And this image was of a much younger person. And they also included a short video, the video of that still image. And in this, where it was originally just down the audio said down the hill, in this audio, it actually says, guys, down the hill. Now, in my opinion, when you're looking at and we'll get to all of these in the news and the videos and all this, in my opinion, when you're looking at a situation like this, to me, what this insinuates is he probably had a gun in his pocket, and we'll talk about the gun situation in just a little bit, and he probably showed it, like, guys, down the hill, kind of instructing them to down the hill. That's probably why there wasn't much else there, and there may very well maybe. The video was like 43 seconds long. There may be more to that video that we're just not hearing, okay? This updated sketch was released, and to be perfectly honest, it looked completely different than the original suspect, the original sketch. And the person that they have arrested today, being Richard Allen, which we'll get into that a little bit, in my opinion, is nowhere, it looks nothing like the second sketch, which was actually, believe it or not, the first sketch. That's right. The sketch that they issued 2 years later, that was the second sketch, is actually the first sketch drawn right after the incidents happened, which is weird because then they went with the second sketch, which does look like Richard Allen. A little bit, should we say. Investigators revealed that they had reason to believe that the suspect might be hiding in plain sight and was almost certainly familiar with the area of Delphi, which makes sense. I mean, who else would go on that fucking bridge like that and do that without being familiar? Whether it be from him living there, working there, or for another reason. So obviously they made another plea to get people to talk about this situation. Now, July 23rd, 2019, Paul Etter, who had been wanted for the kidnapping and rape of 26-year-old woman on June 22nd in Tippecanoe County, was named as one of the multiple suspects being investigated for the Delphi murders. Etter was surrounded by police on June 27th, 2019, and after a 5-hour standoff, he committed suicide, and we never heard the name Paul Etter again. And this is confusing to me because he got in a standoff with the police and then killed himself. Why wouldn't Paul Etter still be a suspect? Like, to me, if you suspect me for a brutal murder and you come to get me and I do a standoff with you and then kill myself, it sounds to me like I committed the murder, right? So remember that name, Paul Etter. He's one. Another suspect, a registered sex offender from Indiana, was arrested in Woodland Park, Colorado in September of 2017. He was threatening strangers on the Monument Trail with a hatchet. In early February 2018, authorities said the suspect was no longer considered an active person of interest in the Delphi murders. I wonder why that was. Now, April 27, 2021, detectives named James Brian Chadwell as a new person of interest in the Delphi murders. Chadwell had been arrested after using his dogs to lure a 9-year-old girl into his apartment in December of 2021. Chadwell was sentenced to 90 years for kidnapping, child molestation, and attempted murder. For some reason, though, this guy they've also no longer considered a suspect. On October 22, 2022, a suspect was taken into custody and appeared in court on October 28th. This is Richard Allen, which we'll talk about Richard Allen here in just a moment. Because there was some memorials. There was a lot of this. Now, let's get to the actual news itself, kind of a timeline of events. We'll take a look at some of the videos. Guys, I want to give you my theory before we even get into this. There's another suspect that was never officially made a suspect. It was the owner of the property. We'll get to that here in just a few minutes. The owner of the property, who eventually did go to jail and in fact died, another person that died, so we can't get to the bottom of. The owner of the property, he was actually, initially, there was a search warrant at his house because of the things that had been going on. Actually, though, there was video of him eating pizza and drinking beer, or drinking at a pizza place, and they believe this is his alibi and why he couldn't have committed the murders. See, what they're not telling you, though, is that the owner of the property, the truth of this is that all that pizza and drinking was earlier in the day at like 11:45 in the morning. We'll get to all of that here in just a second, because we're going to head on over here and we're going to take a look at kind of the timeline, the videos, and I'll give you more of my thoughts as we move forward. Abigail Williams and Liberty German went missing at the Monon High Bridge in Delphi on February 13, 2017. They were reported missing that evening, but an initial search turned up nothing. On the next day, February 14th, law enforcement and volunteers from all across the area joined in the search for German and Williams. Let's go ahead and take a look at the initial news reports from that day. Let me make sure I got this up here. Let's go ahead and take it. Oh, God damn it. Let's go ahead and get rid of this. Let's go ahead and take a look at the initial news reports on that day.
And this breaking news, two 13-year-old girls are missing from Carroll County this morning.
They disappeared yesterday afternoon in what we're told is a treacherous area just outside of Delphi. That's where our Naomi Peskovitz is this morning with more on the search effort. Naomi?
This is 6 years ago.
And Ben and Julia, this is a story, these pictures you will see online today as you wake up and look through your feed, because everyone who knows these two young women is desperately hoping to find them. This is the entrance here to the trail where they were last seen. We know family members have been out here for hours. Right now, though, the search has been suspended while it's been dark. Police, though, telling us they do plan to pick it back up in the morning, but right now, no one knows where these two 13-year-olds might be. So we want to show you their pictures so you can better look. Here's a look. Liberty, or Libby German, is described as 5'4" with a heavy build, shorter shoulder-length blonde hair and blue eyes. She was wearing a tie-dyed shirt that's fringed at the bottom, gray sweatpants, and unknown black lettering on it with some black Nike shoes. Abigail, or Abby Williams, also 13, is 5'4". She has a small build, medium-length blonde hair, and hazel eyes. She was wearing a gray zip-up sweatshirt with a burgundy t-shirt underneath and then blue jeans. They were last seen around 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon near an abandoned railroad bridge. It's known as the Monon High Bridge. It's here just outside Delphi, right where we are. They were supposed to meet up with a family member to pick them up here, but when that family member got here, they were not here to be met by that family. Meantime, we've been sharing these photos online, Facebook, Twitter, anywhere you see them, please share them as well. We did speak with one of the young women's grandfather. He'll be speaking with us in about a half an hour to share what they've been doing to help find these girls. But in the meantime, right now, the search has been suspended because it's just so dark, there's not much to see. Ben and Julia?
Okay, Naomi, thanks to you guys for your efforts to get there this morning and bring us the latest. Obviously, we'll follow it all morning here on Sunrise. Thanks.
Now, see, so this is obviously the very beginning of it all. This is the very beginning of the entire case in general. Now, just looking at it, obviously just looks like, you know, some girls went off hiking and didn't show up. Now, let me touch on this for a second because I want to give you some more information on that day. I believe it was Libby, the older one. She was actually Snapchatting with another gentleman. It was a gentleman that was catfishing her. He was portraying himself as a 19-year-old male model. And this is where things go a little bit dark. And this is why I have issues with parents letting their children have the Snapchat or Facebook or any of this, because things like this will possibly happen. Now, the dude that was catfishing, we'll get into him in another video because I'm going to break down all of this. His last name is Klein. Ultimately, what happened with Klein is that he had, from what I understand, offered to meet her at the very location where she was murdered. Now, obviously, with him catfishing, he's not going to show up there, but he had offered to meet her at this thing. So my question is did she go there to meet the catfish? Did she go there thinking she was going to meet the male model? Now, remember, that morning, she asked her sister, can you drop me and my friend off here? Now, I guess the question I would ask right off the jump is, do they have a habit of going there and hiking? And I don't know too many parents, to be perfectly honest. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that bridge that would just be cool with their 13-year-old kids going off, whatever. But so she asked the big sister. The big sister took her for whatever reason. But this is where things start to get goofy. In the beginning, we didn't know any of these things. But ultimately, there was and later on, years later, in fact, last year, 2021, we understood, we found out the identity of the dude catfishing her. I knew he's going to jail for a lot of child porn, a lot of things like this. But at the end of the day, that has to play a part. Before we go blaming Richard Allen, before we go blaming any of these people, we have to look at everything in its entirety. Now, I get it. A lot of people are saying that this guy is not a suspect. He's not been charged. That's not necessarily true. I mean, the not being charged thing is. But let's not act as if the state police came out and asked for the identity. The dude was going under identity by the name of Anthony Schatz. That was his internet identity. And he was using the male model pictures of a dude that's now currently a cop up in Alaska. But we'll get back to that. We'll get back to Klein. We'll get back to all of that. Currently, we're just going to stick with this. I think that was his name, Klein. We'll get to all that here in just a second. We're still going to continue going essentially down the timeline. I think that's the best thing for this moment. People in this community, obviously at this point, they're on edge. There was concern that the two girls in a quiet neighborhood could go missing, and there was fear something bad had happened, especially because Abby was actually scared of the dark. Abby was scared of the dark, and let's go ahead and take a look here, because we're going to talk about the Delphi investigation. We'll go ahead and take a look at this. We're just going to go news story after news story.
Not just the law enforcement agencies, but the people here in Delphi have been quite affected by this. If you do a search of crime statistics, crime rates are low here in Delphi, not just for the surrounding area, but for the state of Indiana and for the country at large. Eyewitness News reporter David McAnally spoke with some of the people here in Delphi about how all of this is affecting them.
It's the kind of tragedy no town should have to deal with, but one this town has to deal with.
Very upsetting. So this is a small community. And
not much crime at all.
Things like this to happen to your community.
Now I got something to add.
Late afternoon, near the fire station outside Wallman's grocery store here. Folks coming in. Hi, David McAnally with Channel 13. For some people, this is a very sensitive issue that they don't all want to address it, but we did talk to some other folks who did feel up to talking about the developments this afternoon.
It's a tragic thing. I don't know how I would react if it was my own child. It's hard to explain.
It's sad what our world's come to. 2 little girls can't walk home from school without getting home safe.
Neighbors still
they didn't walk
for
home from school.
final identification of those bodies. Back to you.
All right. So now you see that the town is kind of starting to lose it. They're starting to, obviously panic is setting in here. Now, the weird thing about all of this, and I want to touch on this a little bit before we move on, is they want you to believe right now that this guy, Richard Allen, that he did not leave the area. In fact, they want you to believe that he kept his gun, he kept his clothes, he kept his car, he kept everything the same that would have put him in this location. Now, we're going to get to all of this because him actually telling the police, hey, I was on the bridge that day, should be something that would make you look at it twice and say, well, he probably didn't do it then, because I don't know anybody that would kill someone and then voluntarily contact the police and put themselves on the scene of the crime if they were the killer. But during this period of time, you need to realize there's this big, massive search going on. They say up to 500 people were looking for the bodies of these two beautiful girls. Now, with that being the case, that means any evidence from the crime scene legally is going to end up corrupted. Let's be perfectly honest here. Yes, they found the shoe, they found the bodies, they eventually found the phone. That's not going to be corrupted. But later on, you'll find out what they have that connects this man to this crime. To me, is circumstantial at absolute best. Because how do you know that Richard Allen was not one of the people in the search team? How do you know that? Just kind of curious. But let's go ahead and continue. Now, I know what you're saying. Well, he would have told the police that. Well, maybe he did. I'm just saying, you and me as the audience, you and me as the public, we don't know. And we'll get to all of that very shortly. It wasn't until late on the 14th that police confirmed that 2 bodies were found in an area. Here, let me go ahead and bring us back over here. In an area belonging to Deer Creek, along Deer Creek, just a ways east from the bridge. At the time, about 24 hours after they were reported missing, police would only confirm that bodies were found, but they would not identify them. Let's go ahead and check out this story. We'll move on to the next one here. So the bodies were found. Let's listen to what they got to say.
Our breaking news tonight at 5:30 continues in Carroll County, where the nearly 24-hour search for 2 missing girls is over tonight. These images that you're looking at here from Drone Cam 13. We flew it over the area where the 13-year-olds went missing yesterday afternoon. And from these pictures here, you can see just how remote the area is. It was late this afternoon that the news broke that many of us feared all across the state, the discovery of 2 bodies.
But the sheriff would not go as far as saying the bodies are those of the 2 missing girls. They do suspect foul play. We've got John Stair in Delphi tonight at 5:30 with more on the investigation. John.
You know, Scott, they have said that definitely foul play was involved here. And again, they have not released the identities of the bodies found in this rural area of Carroll County. But if you look at the faces of friends, relatives, and searchers, that does tell a story. The search for 13-year-olds Abby Williams and Libby German has been dramatically scaled back. And tonight, the coroner is examining the bodies found. Police are keeping all details right now very close to the vest. But listen to what they had to say.
One thing the family asked us to do is to thank all the communities around Delphi and the people here in Delphi for assisting in attempting to locate these the 2 young children that were missing earlier.
And there are a lot of police presence here. In fact, about 40 members of various police agencies are in the area where these bodies were found, including policemen and officers from the FBI, from the state police, the county sheriff's department, and the city police department. Even the superintendent.
Oh man, where the fuck is it? My bad.
Came up here to Delphi today to be part of this search.
I was dumb.
Here's what he had to say.
Tremendous coordination with an event like this, and we still don't know exactly who these folks are. But this is a small community in rural Indiana, and I want them to know that they're going to get any and all resources that they need to make sure this comes to a successful resolution.
Now, here's the thing about this. Hold on, let me continue. Sorry about that.
And we are now almost exactly 24 hours from when police first were notified that these 2 girls were missing. And the search has ended in some sadness tonight here in Delphi. This community is not used to this kind of situation. It's a low-crime area, and police have a lot to deal with tonight.
Very, very low crime.
The investigation will continue throughout the evening. They're still processing the crime scene. The bodies have not yet been removed. The coroner will take a look at those bodies, and hopefully sometime tomorrow morning we will have some idea on the identities of those people found here in Carroll County. That's it for now. We'll have more for you coming up on Eyewitness News at 6. I'm John Stair, Channel 13 Eyewitness News.
So now, here's what I want to touch on when it comes. Here's what I want to touch on in terms of the search. There was leaked text from a search party member that found the bodies. Now, the police today will try to convince you that they found a bullet that they claim belongs to Richard Allen. Now, the leaked text from that day said the girls were actually stabbed to death, and that their bodies was placed strategically in a signature way like serial killers have, or killers have. It was placed, in his exact words, there was a religious connotation to it. The crime scene was heavily staged by the killer. So now, with that being the case, and remember, And we'll later on get to all of this bullet talk and Richard Allen here. But here's the reality. If these girls weren't shot, then what the fuck are we talking about the bullet for? If these girls were stabbed, raped, and their legs or what are them and their bodies positioned in a different way, I don't know why we're talking about just some random bullet found in a town of 3,000 people that could have been there at any other point in time, considering Richard Allen was a regular of that trail. How do you know Richard wasn't out there hunting and doing things prior to this? That's all I'm saying. And now, if the girls were shot, then it would make sense to me. But right now, there's only reportings that they've been, they haven't released the cause of death, but the leaked text says that they were stabbed and positioned awkwardly, as in to stage the scene. So when you walk up, it kind of for shock value, right? Now, there's a lot of people that say they don't believe them texts. A lot of people that honestly believe that those texts were fabricated. So I don't know. Now, on February 15, 2017, police confirmed the two bodies were found were those of the missing girls. In documents later released, an FBI agent noticed that the pieces of clothing from one of the victims was missing. And this is exactly what the search party person said, that one of the bodies didn't have the clothes. And the bodies were moved and staged. There was no visible signs of a struggle or a fight. Now that right there, it clearly says that corroborates the statement from the search party guy, right? The girls' bodies were moved and staged, no visible signs of a struggle or a fight. Clothing was missing from one. The agent suspected a souvenir had been taken by the killer, and that it was common for perpetrators to memorialize the crime scene with pictures. The FBI agent said investigators did recover fibers and unidentified hairs at the crime scene. Now, obviously that's going to have DNA, and maybe that DNA does match. Maybe that DNA does in fact match Richard Allen, and maybe that is why they've made this choice, this decision. But ultimately, if that DNA doesn't match Richard Allen, or these girls were not shot with Richard Allen's gun, I still stand by what I say, that Richard Allen is not the guy. He's not the guy, but I could be wrong. This is just a hunch. This is just my gut feeling. But let's check this out.
This breaking news.
The bodies have been identified.
In custody at this time. So as far as I'm concerned, yes, there is somebody out there that did this horrendous crime, and we're going to track him down.
That's state police talking about the fear and concern in a small town community after they announced that two missing girls were in fact victims of murder.
Investigators solemnly identified the two bodies found in Carroll County as 13-year-olds Libby German and Abby Williams. Now, we still don't know what happened to them after they disappeared during an afternoon hiking trip.
Eyewitness News reporter Rich Van White begins our team coverage tonight, first with an update on the investigation. Rich?
Anne-Marie, the autopsies confirmed identities, but how these children were killed, the circumstances surrounding their death, police aren't talking about that. They say they don't want to say anything that could jeopardize this double homicide investigation.
And they didn't for years. These motherfuckers didn't talk at all.
State and federal investigators scoured over the crime scene. Early afternoon, divers joined the search for clues that could lead detectives to the girl's killer. The autopsies confirmed what everyone, including the teens' families, suspected and feared.
I think they were in pretty much belief that it was their children. But when you hear it from an official, it's still a little it hits home twice.
One of the hundreds of volunteer searchers found the bodies of Libby German and Abby Williams in a wooded area near Deer Creek. It is an area accessible only by foot or on horse. Well off the popular trails the 13-year-olds were hiking. Dozens of police are now checking hundreds of leads.
We are using resources from all the way from Lowell, Fort Wayne, and the southern part of the state's police, state troopers. We will stay on the job until it is done.
Police say they have no suspects or persons of interest. They're asking anyone who was in the hiking area who saw something or heard something or took any pictures, contact them.
Should people in this community be concerned about someone running around targeting kids?
My response is no. I feel safe for this community.
Libby and Abby, teens teachers describe as happy and go lucky, attended Delphi's middle school. Crisis teams were ready for students and teachers when they arrived at all the district schools.
They're just asking those questions right now of, oh my gosh, it hit me, and somebody's there for them.
The double homicide has prompted one of the largest investigations some officers say they've ever been part of.
As far as I'm concerned, yes, there is somebody out there that did this horrendous crime, and we're going to track him down.
Also, police say there is someone out there who probably saw something, was on the trails, was driving that part of the country just east of Delphi. They may have seen someone, they may have seen a car that perhaps looked out of place, and that's why police want that person to call them. Back to you.
Now, here's the thing about that whole situation, right? When it comes to that, there actually were witnesses. There's witnesses that saw the car. Actually, the affidavit has now been released in, portions of it, right? And we'll talk about that at the end of the video as well. Basically, there was people that saw a man walking muddy and bloody. There were 3 girls that saw Richard, and Richard said he had saw them, right? There was nothing fucked up about it. And so the time all is right around the time that the girls, unfortunately, were there. So there were people that saw Richard Allen, which isn't a surprise because Richard Allen said he was there. There was people that drove by and saw the car parked right there at the old CPS area, right there. In fact, you know, it's really... There was a lot more witnesses than people thought. And that's also kind of why to be perfectly honest, I don't know if you've seen Richard Allen's arrest video. He's too fucking short. I just don't believe this man had the power to do this and move the bodies and stage the scene. Just me personally, it's a gut feeling that when you look at the person, the bridge guy, which we'll get to that here in just a second, and you see him, he doesn't, like, Richard Allen is real short and fat, right? It doesn't look like the same guy. But we'll get to all that because there's a guy that I actually believe it was by the name of Ron, which we'll get to that here in just a second. And I know everybody's going to freak out, all the Richard Allen people. They're going to be like, no, it's not Ron. Yes, it is. Later on February 15, 2017, police revealed German's phone was found. On it, police believed were images of the suspected killer. They showed a man, let's go ahead and go back over here. They showed a man coming across the bridge towards the girls. That's the next video we're going to look at here in just a second. And I got to be honest here. I'm not going to say she's a hero for recording this, but what I will say is for whoever the killer is, that's got to be the unluckiest shit that's ever happened for a killer. Like, how do you get caught on tape by a fucking 13-year-old, 14-year-old? Like, how was that not, like, I guess what I'm saying is like, how did you not think to grab the phone? Like, that, and I'm glad he didn't. I'm glad whoever did it will hopefully get caught and get the death penalty, especially because it's Indiana. But I think about, actually, I think the killer's already dead, but we'll talk about that. This entire situation, like, it baffles me for people to go out and do something like this, clearly premeditated, right? People don't accidentally kill 2 young girls. I guess it could be impulsive, but let's be honest here. Doing something like this is something that, in my opinion, is a fantasy that people have, and so they set out to do these things. Like, so it trips me out how people can set out to do these things and not be prepared whatsoever. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the photo that was released in this investigation.
From Indiana's news leader.
Like, how you get caught with this picture? This is dumb as fuck.
Take a good look at this man. He is the person police are looking to get information from in the murder of 2 teenage girls in Delphi. Right now, police are not saying he's a suspect or even a person of interest, but they do want to talk to him.
They say he was on the same trail around the same time as Libby German and Abby Williams. Police are hoping...
Now, I'm going to be honest with you. This man right here, I want you to look at this, and I want you to think, because I'm going to show you something right here. I want you to look at this man. I want you to look at this man, Ron Logan. Look at the mustache. Look at the way he carries himself, and we'll get to this. Because the reason I'm showing you this is because we're eventually going to get to Ron Logan. Now let's get back to what we was just now looking at, because that's who I actually believed did this. Now, if we take a look at this, in my opinion, he walks like he's older, and I feel like I can see the mustache. I feel like I can see the mustache right there. It just feels like Ron Logan. I know everybody else is like, no, that's not Ron Logan. I don't understand how people can genuinely think that. Anyone that's seen Ron Logan and seen him walk and seen examples of it, I don't see how you can possibly believe that man right there on the bridge isn't Ron Logan. But let's continue.
Man has any information that could lead to an arrest. But tonight,
God
the
damn it.
community is still in shock.
I'm just worried that it would happen again.
And this is what we know tonight. Someone murdered 13-year-olds Libby and Abby. People searching for them found their bodies less than 24 hours after they disappeared.
And now police are working around the clock to find out who's responsible. Our crews have been in Delphi today within hours of the search beginning, and they have stayed there as this tragedy continues to unfold.
Eyewitness News reporter David McNally is in Carroll County tonight with more on the person police are trying to track down. Dave?
Police say that they need your help. They're hoping that if someone recognizes that photo, they will call in to police, because this could be a major development in the case. Call in even if you want to remain anonymous. Here's the image police want the public to see. Not calling him a person of interest.
Now, I want you to see this for just a second. In fact, let me go. I'm going to pull something up here for you guys in just a second. Now, this is what I wanted to show you guys. This is Ron Logan. Look at the bridge guy. Now look at the image of Ron Logan walking, hands in the pockets. Bro, there is no way this is not Ron Logan. You can continuously look at the videos, anything that shows Ron Logan walking. Let me go back here. Anything that shows Ron Logan walking. Let me see. They probably don't have any videos right here. Ron Logan's in the bridge guy comparison. Let's just take a look at this right here. Let's just take a look. Let's just take a look at that right there. In my opinion, it's clear. There's actual footage of Ron Logan walking. And they're putting it, they're lining it up with the bridge guy. Come on, man. How do you not? There's bridge guy. Now let's take a look at Ron Logan. Let's see if they show that again. It's almost, look at this, look at this, look at this. It's almost perfect to a T. Come on, man. But now Ron Logan's dead. But I don't know too many people that just walk with their hands in their pockets and their head down. Even the legs look right around the same size. Now, when you look at the bridge guy, you see him kind of hunched over a little bit. That's because there's gaps in the bridge. He's having to watch his step as he's doing the bridge. And so he's going to be hunched over a little bit, so he's going to seem a little bit smaller than he would if he was standing, straight up and just looking down. On the bridge, he's not only looking down, but he's kind of hunched over a little bit. Now, I could be wrong, but tell me what you guys think when you take a look at that video right there. I'm just curious what you guys think in reference. I don't see, look, man, if you take a look at this image, you can to me, that's an older dude. And wait till you hear his voice, right? That's an older dude, and I feel like I can literally see the mustache on his face. I feel like I can literally see the mustache on his face.
someone police want to talk to because he was on the same trail as the murdered teenagers at about the same time. Look like anybody that you've seen in the area living close to the trail?
No. It's his property.
We saw them up and down Country Road near the historic bridge and trail the two 13-year-olds were walking around the time they were murdered Monday afternoon.
Just wanting to know if you'd seen any strange people, you know. Maybe that's where I seen it.
Police not only want to find out who this man is and whether he was seen near the girls Monday afternoon. Police also want to talk to anyone.
Now, you can't tell me that you don't get older vibes from that picture. This man right now, I think, is just now 50. 6 years ago, he would have been 44. The body language doesn't tell me 44. Now, keep in mind, Ron Logan was around 70. Somewhere, I think, like 65, 70 at the time that this happened. To me, the body language of the guy walking felt older than 44. 44 is just 2 years older than me. I don't know, man. And so, like, I'm looking at all of this, and I'm I don't see this short, chubby dude right here as the dude that was on the bridge. Granted, this is years later, but well, here we go.
Parked in the High Bridge Trailhead parking lot between 1 and 5 p.m. Monday. It's critical they call police.
We're going to get to the bottom of this. We feel confident, and you know, we're going to do everything we can within our resources to reach justice in this situation.
The Carroll County Sheriff, after autopsies, confirmed the identities of the two 13-year-olds, Libby German and Abby Williams. But to protect the investigation, police not yet releasing the cause of death or whether the girls died in the same way.
Did you recover either of their cell phones at the scene?
We cannot comment on that right now.
At least one of the victims had a cell phone and posted photos to social media before she died. It's unclear if this picture was taken by the girls.
There went, like, I don't know.
A couple more police officers going by?
They've been pretty much blocking the road all day and keep people out of there.
So if you have information on that man in the photo, or if you were parked at the Trailhead parking lot between 1 and 5 on Monday, call the police. At the web version of this story at WTHR.com, we list all those numbers for you to call.
And they eventually did. They eventually did do some calling. Definitely some tips came through. So now as we leave this, we're going to talk about Ron Logan a little bit. In those early days, at times, later investigators looked at the man who owned the property. Now, who was the property? That was the man I just introduced you guys to by the name of Ron Logan. For more than 50 years, Ron Logan lived at this exact spot near the trail that leads to the Monon High Bridge. People walk up and down here with children, he says. It's quite a nice little trail and bridge, Logan told 13 News at the time. The area they were in was very hard to get to. I mean, you can't get there unless you walk there. Somebody had to have been walking them or something. And I want you to just take a note. What I want you to do is I want you to take a look at Ron Logan. Now, because even as he's standing here, people that put their hands in their coat pockets and pants pockets and shit, that's kind of a nervous tick. They do it all the time. I've never walked with my hands in my damn pockets. It just seems weird. People that do, I want you to just notice, because if someone is doing this on a regular, it's a mannerism that is a personal signature, in my opinion. I believe the hands in the pocket and the looking down as they walk, I think it's a Ron Logan signature. This is what I truly believe. Curious to know what you guys think in regards to this, but let's roll it.
It's a small town up there in Carroll County and still distraught over the loss of two of their own.
In fact, Eyewitness News reporter Emily Longnecker tonight continues our team coverage in Delphi with how people there continue to cope with the loss of Abby and Libby. Emily?
John and Andrea, people here in Delphi are cautious tonight about saying too much of anything. Many of them knew these two young girls and they know their families, and they are just finding it still very difficult to talk about what happened. On the outskirts of town, though, where police found the two teens' bodies, people are talking, sharing their disbelief and anger. Against the beauty of the sunshine and bright blue skies Wednesday, it was still hard for Ron Logan to believe the violence visited upon two young teens just out for a hike on a day off from school.
Who would have thought they'd let their children out to do something special that day, take a trip down, and then turn out with a disaster like this?
For 53 years, Logan's lived on the country road near the trail that leads to the Monon High Bridge.
People walk up and down with their children, and yeah.
Now, I want you to keep in mind, who would know that on the other end of because the bridge is a dead end, other than the person that owns the property, right? Down the hill, girls, down the hill, right? Now, I will say this, I'm not 100% sure his voice sounds like the bridge guy, but the authority and the confidence in the bridge guy, which you'll hear the bridge guy's voice here in just a second, to me, someone that really knows this area, like the property owner for 50 years, to me, well, you're a typical person that doesn't know that property, that hasn't owned that property, doesn't live in that property, maybe doesn't hunt in that property. They wouldn't know that there would even be a way out of where they were going. And just in my opinion, you know, it is a heavy brush in the area. It just seems like if you're going to take someone down the hill outside of this, and you're not going to risk coming back up to the bridge, right? You're going to know the way out of this out of the creek and up to your car. To me, nobody saw a dude walking back to the car because maybe he didn't. Maybe Ron just walked into his house. Did you ever think about that? I know there's a lot of people that don't believe Ron did it.
It's quite a nice little trail, and the bridge is real.
Never, though, has Logan seen anything like what he has this week. The search for an eventual discovery of the bodies of Libby German and Abby Williams.
The area that they were in is very hard to get to. I mean, you can't get there unless you walk there. I mean, so somebody would be walking with them or something.
Those are the same kind of thoughts Marvin Sandifer keeps mulling over. His daughter used to hike the same trail.
She said, I've seen a couple scruffy-looking guys back in there, but, you know, they never bothered me. They went on their way.
Sandifer is anxious for investigators to identify a suspect.
I'm not really scared. I'm just worried that it would happen again.
That's why he hopes someone knows or saw something on that trail.
I can agree with that.
Can lead investigators down the right path soon.
I hope they catch him tonight, and I hope they make him pay.
And with the release tonight of the picture of that unknown man seen walking on the trail Monday afternoon, people here are hoping investigators are that much closer to discovering who is responsible for taking these two young lives. John?
That would definitely be good.
Thank you. Emily Longnecker in Delphi tonight.
Oh, Longnecker. All right. So we're going to keep going here. We're going to keep going because we're getting a little closer. We're getting a little deeper. Logan's home was searched, by the way. The FBI searched Ron Logan's home. An FBI agent speculated about his possible involvement in the homicides, but no evidence was ever found linking Logan to the murders. Keep this in mind. The FBI, at least one agent, thought that Logan could be involved. Now, you guys know that's my position, but there was no evidence they ever found. The FBI agent noted that the 77-year-old Logan, he was 77 at the time, appeared to be in good physical condition, and his voice was not inconsistent with that of the voice captured on German's phone. Ooh. The FBI agent also claimed that text messages sent to and from Logan's phone the evening of February 13, 2017, showed that he was literally outside his home, likely outside his home, in the proximity of where the bodies were found. Let that sink in. Text messages from his phone puts him in the exact proximity of the bodies that evening. That very evening. The agent then noted that Logan had been physically able to get up and down the hill from his home to the crime scene when he met with the officers on February 17th. So it's proven even at 77, he had the ability to do it. The agent was specific that they believe Logan could be involved in the murders. He says, I believe there is probable cause to believe that Ronald Logan has committed the crime of murder, and the evidence of that could be found on Ronald Logan's property. So what they did on February 16, 2017, the FBI got permission to search the entire property, including Logan's home, garage, his pickup truck, computers, cell phones, the whole nine. A previous search of Logan's home on February 16th for a parole violation noted that he had numerous weapons, including handguns and knives. On parole, obviously. Had weapons, obviously. I don't understand why the guy on parole isn't a fucking bigger suspect or a bigger suspect than he was.
This is breaking news from Channel 13 Eyewitness News.
And that breaking news tonight is in the investigation into the murder of two girls in Delphi. Just hours ago, police surrounded this home as they moved in to search a warrant. It comes as they make another plea for answers about
That's Ronald Logan, man.
Who could have information that could help them solve the case. The warrant is just the latest step police have taken to find out who killed 13-year-olds Libby German and Abby Williams. Our crews have been in Carroll County all week long, from the time the teenagers disappeared on Monday night to the new search tonight. And we begin with Eyewitness News reporter Emily Longnecker on what led police to this home and what the outcome was. Emily?
Well, John, whatever investigators took out of this home tonight on Bicycle Bridge Road, it certainly wasn't anyone in handcuffs. State police say they haven't arrested anyone in this case. But the reason for coming here, they say, is related to the investigation into the murders of Libby German and Abby Williams. Investigators spent a few hours on the property. Neighbors say, and records show, is a family farm. There was a large Indiana State Police presence along with the FBI and Carroll County Sheriff's Department as investigators served a search warrant around 7. Investigators also spent time taking photographs of the property. Police say tonight's warrant came as a result of leads they got in the case.
Basically, with information we received from tips and interviewing people, we had enough probable cause to believe we had information that could be relevant to the case. We then took it to the judge. The judge gave us a search warrant, and we executed the search warrant this evening.
And state police are not saying what they took out of the house tonight. They are also not saying if the homeowner was here at the time when they were here searching, or if they have questioned that homeowner at any point during the day, or if that homeowner is a suspect in this case. John?
He should have been. And at least with one FBI agent, he was considered to be a suspect. I don't understand how people keep overlooking Logan, but Ron Logan did die in 2020, and he was never officially named a suspect in these murders. And that's the end of the story for Ron Logan. For some reason, no one else even talks about Ron Logan. Everybody is just like, nah, fuck him, he's dead, let him go. Nobody talks about one of the earlier suspects that fucking killed himself in a standoff with the police. For some reason, all attention now, just because, and here's what I think happened. Kind of like with the Debbie Collier case. They got tired of trying to put it together, so they said, fuck it, she just killed herself. I think in this situation, this could be a situation where there was a lot of pressure, and the police were like, we gotta pin it on someone. You know, you rush through it because you want results, right? And in my opinion, that's what we're seeing. Now, on February 18, 2017, still in 2017, this is all within a week, a memorial service was held for the girls. The community began mourning their loss at the same time. Concerns about a killer in the community obviously existed. So let's go ahead and take a look at that real quick. Let's check it out.
Again, a community is coming together to honor the lives of two girls murdered earlier this week. Our Eyewitness News reporter, Carrie Klein, begins our team coverage for us tonight. She's live in Delphi, where people are finding their own ways to say goodbye to Libby and Abby. Carrie?
Yeah, good afternoon, good evening, Jenny. There has been a steady stream of cars pulling in here to the parking lot at Delphi Community High School, and a steady stream of people all afternoon waiting to get inside the school, anxious to pay their respects to the families of Libby German and Abby Williams. Actually, people started lining up well in advance of the start of this event. We got here, we have some video from when we first arrived around 3 o'clock this afternoon, and the visitation visitation wasn't scheduled to start until 4. But even then, you could see the parking lot already full of cars, a line of people already formed outside. No doubt, hearts are very heavy here in Delphi, and this is also a way for community members to support one another. Now, Nayeli Garcia Nava lives here in Delphi and has 3 children that attend the schools here. She's here to help. She spent the afternoon volunteering, tending to the needs of the family and handing out food and water to those leaving the visitation. For her, this is personal.
It was unbelievable. It is Delphi after all. It's family. That way I've always put it. Everyone knows each other, so I could not believe what was happening. It was very shocking.
We're all sort of hurting a little bit. If we could share that, maybe it might be easier.
And Dennis Walker there on his way into the visitation. He just moved here 4 years ago, but he said from day one, this community has surrounded him and supported him. And in some small way, he just wanted to be able to give back. Now, we have seen groups of people standing in the parking lot talking, again, supporting one another, just a gathering point, a touch point for the community today to get out and support one another. We understand there are grief counselors from the community inside, and they've been at the school all week long to support the students and teachers, and they'll be here next week to continue that support, as the district says they're trying to maintain as normal a school day as possible. Now, tonight at 8 o'clock, there's going to be a lantern lighting and launch again in honor of Libby and Abby, and we'll be here for that and bring more to you tonight on the Night Beat. Jenny?
So obviously this hit that community pretty fucking hard. Let's just call it what it is. Obviously, this community was hit hard. A lot of people. And listen, those small Indiana towns, I get it, man. You don't expect shit like that. You let your kids go outside, all of this. February 22nd, 2017, a week later from that moment, police released audio from German's phone. And this is where you're going to finally hear down the hill. And what you hear a man say, down the hill. It wouldn't be until years later that we would learn that the recording is actually 43 seconds long. I'll be showing you that recording right now. This audio will send chills down your spine for the most part. But I do got a question before we jump into the audio. And I don't know if anyone's even considered this. What if the bridge guy isn't the killer? Serious question. Like, I don't think anyone's ever thought about him not being the killer.
This is breaking news from
Here we go,
Channel 13 Eyewitness News.
Hi, Libby. Why Abby? Why Delphi? Why Carroll County?
Investigators today are speaking.
By the way, this
out
was
about the
March.
unsolved
This was
double
March.
homicide in Delphi, and there are new startling developments. It turns out one of the victims took this picture of a suspect and captured his voice before she was murdered. Listen carefully to this brief audio recording. Do you recognize this voice? Police say that's the voice of a suspect saying 3 words, down the hill. We're going to play that audio again in a moment in hopes that you may recognize it and help solve this double homicide. We want to begin.
Now, I want to say this. I want to say this before we go any further, right? Obviously, this man right here, Richard Allen, he had a wife and kids, right? He was the pharmacist at the CVS. Everyone in that town had heard his voice. And let's not forget that he's the one that told the police, yeah, I was on the fucking bridge. It doesn't sound like that unless he was mentally retarded or some shit, right? Like, why would you do that? And like literally, he was the pharmacy technician at CVS. Everyone knew his voice. And you don't think his wife ever was like, damn, that sounds a lot like my husband. To me, the best explanation is it was probably someone single, someone that lived alone, someone like Ron, maybe. Anyway, let's get back to this. Sorry. Oh, shit.
Stunning developments out of Carroll County today. We've got Matt McCutcheon beginning our coverage in Delphi after police brought us this startling information. Matt?
Good afternoon, Scott. By far the biggest development out of this half-hour press conference is the release of that 3-word audio recording that came out today. And we're also learning the heartbreaking development that 14-year-old Libby German knew something wasn't quite right, got her phone out, snapped both the picture of the suspect and that recording of the audio that could also be of the suspect as well. That's part of what we're learning here today. Police say they still have not been able to positively identify this suspect, his name or his whereabouts, his location, but they continue working over hundreds of leads. In fact, they say they estimate they receive about a
And let's be honest, just based on the hat, just based on like I said earlier, the mannerisms, to me, this is an older gentleman. This is an older gentleman. I don't know too many younger guys that wear like the paperboy type hat, right? I don't know too many younger guys that wear that. And yes, 44 at that time would have still been young.
Calls their anonymous tip line each hour, and they're not just joined by local, state, county police, but the FBI. Today we learned that a team of nearly 24 FBI agents are also joining in the search to help them on any leads that they receive going all around Delphi and surrounding communities trying to find that suspect. There is also a concern that that suspect may have somehow changed his appearance, so that's also why they're releasing that audio recording. Today at this press conference, you really got a feel for the emotional
What, gained 100 pounds and grew a goatee?
This community, but on the investigators. Well, they also released a stern message to that suspect.
And I would suggest to you that every time something like this happens, a little piece of us dies as well. We must keep our resolve for Libby and Abby, for this community, and frankly, to ensure that good trumps evil. As poor as this picture is, somebody knows. And if you're watching, we'll find you.
That last sentence,
It's definitely sad
there
stuff.
From the superintendent of the Indiana State Police, we will find you, going out to that suspect because police are confident they will be able to make an arrest quickly in this case.
And that didn't
We also
happen.
learned that as part of
That didn't
help by the
happen.
FBI, they will be circulating his image on billboards, not just here locally, not just across the state of Indiana or even the Midwest, but they say all across the country as they intensify their efforts to try to find that suspect. We're also learning there is a cash reward. Right now, there's about $40,000 available in a cash reward for information leading to an arrest in this case. That's as community agencies, businesses, and people all across this area continue to support the fund to help bring an arrest in this case. Scott?
I think it's amazing for a lot of our viewers to think about this young teen girl who was able to capture the video of this suspect, this picture that we've been showing for days, and now this audio recording. And even though we just got a snippet of it today, Matt, are there any additional recordings or video?
Police say that there is additional recording. There are additional recordings on that cell phone from Libby German that they were able to recover, but we don't know what that is. They're not releasing that right now because they say it's crucial to their investigation. They don't want to give out too much information. Take, for example, the fact that we still don't know how those girls died. Police are not
Still
releasing
don't,
that
all these
because they
years
don't want to
later.
release too much information that may give their hand to the case. For example, someone who knows something may talk about details that aren't yet known. Police will be able to trip them up and then hopefully lead to an arrest. So there is more information that police have that they aren't releasing just now, all while that search continues with many agencies working to make an arrest.
All right, Matt, thanks for your coverage today at noon, and we want you to hear that audio recording again. State police say that Libby German used her cell phone to record this voice before she was killed. Again, listen carefully. Again, that's a loop of a voice saying down the hill. They've got this audio looped, and that's the reason that you do hear it several times. Now, if you want to listen to that audio recording again or take another...
So obviously this was a big deal, right? This was a huge deal when it comes to this. And once again, this was in March, and then we move on to March 9th, 2017. Despite thousands of tips and assistance from Indiana State Police and the FBI, there was still no arrest. Very few developments beyond the March 6th search of Logan's home. Then on March 9th, police gave another update and heard from the family of Libby German. Now, that's a 16-minute press conference, which we're not going to watch here today. Soon, a month had passed since the killings, and then weeks more. The girls' school memorialized them with benches. A charity game was held in their memory, but police were no closer to finding their killer. Then we go to July 17th, 2017. The police released their first sketch of said killer. Let me move on past this press conference here. Here we go.
And that breaking news is from Delphi in the murders of 2 young girls. This sketch, this coming out in the past hour. Police hope it helps lead to a break.
Now, I will be honest. This sketch right here, I could believe I personally could believe it's Richard. Okay, this looks more like Richard than the other sketch, which we'll get to at some point. But even then, I don't feel like they look that much alike. Now, granted, if you take away the goatee and you add some hair to him, maybe. But there's videos of him from this time where he didn't even have the hair. Like, it seemed to me from videos that were posted on Richard's wife's Facebook that he's always, much like myself, cut his hair in a buzz cut. Now, I could be wrong, but just based on that. And I know what you're saying. Well, he could have had his hair grown out and he could have cut it and this and that. I get all that. But to be perfectly honest, based on the home videos and other videos from his wife's Facebook, I don't know if he ever had scruffy hair like that. Now, if you remove all of that and you remove the goatee, cut it down a little bit, you remove the length of the goatee, and if you were to cut off all the hair, okay, I could see it a little bit, right? I could see it a little bit because the eyes, I have to admit, the eyes do look like it. The nose does kind of look like it. The mouth, the lips, everything, it does look like it.
Out in the past hour, police hope it helps lead to a break in the killings of 14-year-old Libby German and 13-year-old Abby Williams. Eyewitness News reporter Rick Van Wyk joins us live this afternoon from Delphi with what he's learned. Rick?
Naomi, put simply, investigators are trying to put a name with that face. They believe this individual is one of the individuals who participated in the murders. They believe this individual in the artist's sketch.
And I'm just going to be honest. Like you would think that the people in this town would know, hey, I know a guy that wears a hat like that, right? I know a guy that kind of looks like that. And keep in mind that Richard they didn't move. So Richard's either the dumbest criminal in the history of criminals, or this was never Richard. But listen, let's be honest here. That type of hat is not a typical hat that people wear. And even when the people that do wear them, they're typically older, like Ron. Someone his age. You see what I'm saying?
The same man in that fuzzy photograph we've been looking at for months as police tried to find who killed Abby Williams and Libby German. The individual police are now looking for in this artist sketch put together with witnesses as well as that video we've seen, that one frame of video. They say is a white male, 5'6" to 5'10", heavy set, 180 pounds to 220 pounds. He has reddish brown hair. Police are saying don't focus on the hat, focus on his facial features. It was February, 5 months since the community was shaken by the murders of the 2 best friends, Abby and Libby. They were hiking a popular trail just outside of town when they disappeared. Their bodies were found a day later in a secluded wooded area. There have been dozens of detectives and hundreds of police officers working this case. They've got a $230,000 reward out there. That hasn't produced a suspect, let alone arrest. What they're counting on now is that someone sees this sketch, again, put together with a witness, put together...
Like, I want you to think about something. There's only 3,000 people in the fucking town, right? If you narrow it down, to the men, and then you narrow it down even more to those mannerisms and that style of dress. Bro, how many possible suspects could there be?
The still photograph we've seen before, they can come up with a name and give police a telephone call.
Like, you can't tell me that don't look like an old man.
Compared to what you saw down below.
The guy walking.
Information out there, the pictures out there. Now we got this composite that we feel that is the same.
I mean, that face does look like Richard. He does. The eyes, they do look like Richard.
Is this person? We're hoping, and that they can get that picture and take that picture and get us some information on a possible suspect.
That does kind of look like Richard Allen.
We put the number and email address people can call if they think they...
Let's be honest. He does kind of...
Say that this has been going on for 5 months, but they say they are still getting 5 or 6 leads a day. One of those leads, along with this picture, helps them solve a case that has haunted this community, Naomi, now for 5 months.
And Rich, folks have been asking us for a long time what they can do to help, and today I think it's sharing that picture as many times as they can. Thank you, Rich, for your live report from Delphi.
I'll definitely give him that. That the image itself does look a lot like him. A flurry of tips came pouring in, but as police crossed each one off, of course, no arrests were made. Now, in September of 2017, the girl's family actually went on Dr. Oz, pleading for tips and answers. Let's check it out.
Girls killed in Delphi this year are hoping national attention on an upcoming Dr. Oz show will prompt new leads in this unsolved case. After that taping, I asked the families of Libby German and Abby Williams about the heartache they feel as police continue to search for the killer. What are they telling you about the investigation?
Really not more than what they tell the public, to be honest with you, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. I want to protect the integrity of the investigation. I mean, the most important thing for this, or for us, is to catch this guy.
Now, Becky, do you feel that investigators are any closer today to solving this case?
Yes.
What makes you say that?
Because I have faith in them. I know they're working diligently. I know they're getting rid of tips, going through all the tips, because we've gotten calls on different things.
Does this guy look familiar to any of you? Does the voice sound familiar to any of you?
We all came in to hear the audio, and then when we came in to see the sketch, and we all, I'm sure, held our breath and went, oh, I hope. But at the same time, you hope you don't.
5'6" to 5'10", reddish brown hair.
You must have theories about who this
Let
guy
that sink in. Reddish brown hair. Listen, I don't know how many videos of Richard Allen you've seen. And granted, you can just be like, okay, maybe they got the reddish wrong, okay? But in no photos has he ever looked like he had reddish hair at all. In any photos that I've ever seen of him.
I think he's a predator, and he isolated these girls on that bridge and took advantage of their innocence and simply murdered them. That's a fact.
I have to say, God's got this, and so do the police. And we're going to do what we can, which is work on our park and our ball field. And we're going to keep moving our families forward inch by inch.
I'm hoping that there's going to be people that haven't heard about the girls see this. I hope the right person sees this that says, oh, I know that person.
We just ask that you do the right thing. Do the right thing for our girls and to keep this from happening to the next family.
So if you know anything about the murders of Libby and Abby, please call police. I'll put the number on the screen. This is an anonymous tip line, 844-459-5786. We also have this posted tonight on WTHR.com.
All right. So now we're going to continue here. And by the way, once I finish up with this A to Z thing, this is my way of taking a look at this entire case. And then I'm going to start posting my theory videos, things like this, as we proceed. I will cover this trial in its entirety. On February 13th, this is a whole year later. 2018, Delphi marked its 1 year since the killings. The community came together with a hope for new tips, justice for the girls. There was no significant updates in the case for a whole nother year after this, which we'll talk about in a second. There was speculation when other similar cases came up, but they never led to a connection with Delphi. Let's roll it.
Because I refuse to accept
This is 1 year later.
standard bearer in American society.
1 year ago today, dozens of searchers in Delphi were holding out a lot of hope that they would find two missing teenagers alive and well.
That search for 13-year-old Abby Williams and 14-year-old Libby German ended in tragedy. But tonight, 1 year later, there's even more determination and hope to find whoever killed them.
Tonight, our Emily Longnecker on how police and even loved ones are marking this summer anniversary by vowing to get some justice.
Andrea and John, a year later, ribbons made up of Libby and Abby's favorite colors still hang in downtown Delphi. This is a community that hasn't forgotten or given up hope that the girl's killer will be caught soon. 1 year after Libby and Abby disappeared while walking on a wooded trail near Delphi, the people who knew and loved them celebrated the girls' lives at a local church. The candlelight vigil came just hours after investigators held a news conference at the trail where the girls went hiking on a sunny day last February and were never seen alive again.
It's personal to me because those two young girls were everybody's daughter.
Indiana State Police Superintendent Doug Carter said despite no arrests, the case is far from cold.
I believe we're one piece of the puzzle away from figuring out who this individual is. Then the real work begins.
Early on in the investigation, some of that puzzle came together with this photo police say is the killer, along with audio of his voice. Investigators say Libby captured both on her cell phone the day the girls were killed. Still, despite 30,000 tips, 1,000 persons of interest, a detailed sketch, and a $225,000 reward, Abby and Libby's killer is still out there.
I know people are frustrated, and I feel like some of the stuff I read, how is it taking this so long? Nobody believed it would ever take this long. And it has, and we don't understand why. We're not happy about it. It'd be nice for this part to be over, but it's not yet, and we will wait as long as it takes.
The girls' families pray for answers while honoring their memories with projects like the Abby and Libby Memorial Park. Investigators believe someone out there knows who this person is and just needs to come forward.
And it's having one individual with the strength to say, that was my brother, or that's my dad, or that's my cousin, or that's my neighbor, it's my coworker. That's all we need. And I think we're one piece away. One piece.
Police also have a message for the killer.
Today may be your day. It might be tomorrow, but I can guarantee you your day's coming.
And a plea tonight from Libby German's mother. She lives in Kentucky but is in town for the 1 year anniversary of the girls' murders. Carrie Timmons asked people to stay vigilant and if they have a tip, to call it in. In Delphi, Emily Longnecker, Channel 13, Eyewitness News.
Emily Longnecker.
And if you know anything that can help.
So 1 year later, now this thing goes cold for a minute, right? It's a whole another year after this. This is April 22nd, 2019. 2 years, 3 years, no, a whole 2 years after everything. Indiana State Police released an updated sketch. Now, as you can see by looking on the thing, the sketch was vastly different from the original. It showed a younger man with curly hair and no goatee. Now, to me, I don't know about you guys, this looks completely different than the first sketch.
And that breaking news tonight at 5 o'clock. The face of a killer. State police say this brand new sketch released today is the man who killed Abby Williams and Libby German.
You see why I think they dropped the ball?
2 years since the girls were murdered. So police today also sharing for the very first time more audio and more video that they got from Libby's cell phone.
Now, when we look at this, now this goes back to my original theory. Now, the voice was not recorded as at the same time as the man walking. What had happened was the man got up there, they filmed him walking, but by the time he got up there, I think she had put the phone in her hoodie. And that's why the voice is muffled. Now, here's the thing. Now, you may think, well, all they did was add the word guys. That's not really anything. I disagree. I think the whole guys thing was to get their attention. I believe that he may have pulled a weapon out and pointed, you know what I'm saying? Guys, down the hill. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying? Like, hey guys, to get the attention. Down the hill. And he had the weapon. That's why maybe there was no fighting, no nothing, and they just did what he said and walked down the hill. Now, there's been rumors that there's a lot of there's the 48 seconds. And the girls can be heard saying, is that weird guy still behind us? Now, that hasn't been confirmed. That has never been released. That's just rumors that have surfaced over the years. So I can't confirm nor deny that, right? But it's one of those things. He said it with such authority. Now, I don't know if you think it sounds like the Ron guy back. I don't know. But it sounds like an older guy to me.
A little bit longer than the version we heard before with the word guys down the hill. Investigators want you to listen to the voice and look at the way that the man is walking. Any information, they say, no matter how small, could help them catch whoever killed.
But I don't understand why there's no goatee now in the image.
Today's press conference this afternoon around noon, where police say they believe the killer is from Delphi.
Well, where I am right now in Delphi is not far from
now this new sketch doesn't look anything like Richard Allen.
Abby and Libby were hiking that day, were killed more than 2 years ago, and that's part of the point from police. 3 big takeaways today: that new sketch, new audio and video of the killer, and the fact that this guy is local. He's been hiding in plain sight.
Police believe this is a clearer look at Abby and Libby's killer, a man they call a coward who will be caught.
A question to you. What will those closest to you think of when they find out that you brutally murdered 2 little girls?
Investigators say the suspect is likely between 18 and 40 years old,
18 and 40.
younger than his real age, and they believe he's still close by. From Delphi,
Now,
or used to
hold
live or
on.
work
Now
in
listen.
Delphi.
Now listen. 18 to 40, and may look younger than his real age. My man right here was 44, right? At that time. So they switched it up. They changed the entire image of the guy. And even the age is younger. I don't understand how that ended up being the direction that they went. Because to me, when I see the guy walking, he looks anything but young.
Right among the very community mourning these girls for 2 long years. That may be why the public was invited to this news conference, why every guest had to sign in.
To the killer, who may be in this room. We believe you are hiding in plain sight. For more than 2 years, you never thought we would shift gears to a different investigative strategy, but we have.
Indiana State Police also shared this never-before-seen video from Libby's cell phone taken on the tracks the day she died. Police want you to watch how he walks, his mannerisms, hoping this clip sparks a clue. Then there's the killer's voice.
That's one of the worst sketches I've ever seen.
A few more seconds of sound from the murderer on that February afternoon.
We are confident that you have told someone what you have done. Or at the very least, they know, because of how different you are since the murders.
Police also hope someone will remember a car that was parked here on the day of the murders between 12 and 5, February 13th, 2017.
More evidence.
It's off of County Road 300 North, not far from the historic trails. Investigators believe all of this evidence will get them closer to catching a killer who devastated the families of 2 girls.
I just want the family to know that when I take my last breath on this earth, I'll be thinking of them.
Obviously, this case has really affected the entire community, and it was visibly affecting people who attended the news conference today. My colleague Rich Nye has more on that, more reaction from them.
For 2 years, the people of Delphi have been looking for a suspected killer who looked like this. But now the investigation has a new face, and people here are taking a
It doesn't make any sense to me.
People from the area packed the Wabash and Erie Canal Conference Center to learn the latest on the investigation, on who killed Abby Williams and Libby German, as they walked a trail in Delphi.
None of this makes sense to
There's going
me.
to be something new, and I see that there is. So I know they're still working on it. That's the main thing.
But most were stunned to find out the new direction is what looks like a much different suspect.
Where did this come from? You know, yeah, it is strange. We went from that sketch to this one, and he's younger. And the other one, he was older.
We've always been looking for someone that looked older.
The last time
He just seemed older than this, so I'm hoping
Yeah.
that maybe they'll be able to catch whoever did it. Maybe this is a little bit closer to the real murder.
Police believe this is a more accurate depiction of the man captured on video on Libby German's cell phone minutes before the two teenage girls were murdered. More than 2 years
I don't see how they can come up with that,
leaves this
come to
town
that
of less than
conclusion.
3,000 people uneasy.
This is a new page and a whole new beginning, and hopefully we'll find answers for the girls soon.
Coming up at 6 o'clock, we'll hear reaction from people to police saying that the killer is likely right here in this area. In Delphi, I'm Rich Knight, Channel 13 Eyewitness News.
Now, today's new information comes more than 2 years since the girls were found murdered. Let's show you now a timeline of events. They were both went missing on February 13th of 2017. On Valentine's Day, the search and rescue, they found their bodies there. Then a day later, police released this picture right here of the suspect from the bridge. And then a few days later, on February 22nd, police then released the audio. You may remember that when you heard the suspect say down the hill. Then this is the very first picture of the suspect that we got. This sketch here on July 17th. 2017. As you can imagine, thousands of leads have come in, but so far still no arrest in this case. And then today, the brand new information that we received, ISP
2 years
announced
later,
a brand new direction. We saw more of the video from Libby's cell phone and also have our first look at the new sketch of the suspect. Here it is. This is the man police believe killed these two friends back on February 13th of 2017. As you can imagine, this is still an ongoing investigation. If you have any information that can help police solve this case, please give them a call.
It is insane, right? It is definitely insane. Obviously, Indiana State Police released audio of the suspect. Like, to me, I'm going to just be honest, that audio, like I said, the guy, to me, I just visualize him as being way older than what we're being told or what that image shows, right? Investigators also released additional audio of the suspected killer, which is what we just heard. Indiana State Police Superintendent Doug Carter noted at the time that the killer was likely in the room or watching the news conference. He promised that one day he'd be able to share all that investigators knew about the crime. Again, tips came pouring in, but there was no arrest. A whole nother year passed until 2021, 4 years after the girls' murders. And then things started to get a little bit interesting, because I don't know if you guys remember this from last year, but let's go ahead.
Found in the woods of Delphi. The girls had gone hiking in the woods the day before, but that the bodies of Abby Williams and Libby German were found in the woods of Delphi. The girls had gone hiking in the woods the day before, but never made it home.
Our Emily Longnecker spoke with both families about reaching 4 years with still no break in the case.
None.
Investigators have a sketch of the suspect. They also have cell phone video and audio that Libby German took on her cell phone that day. They also have 50,000 tips that have come in, and still 4 years later, the families of both girls wait with their killer still out there. Still, every day, the families of Abby Williams and Libby German have woken up with one hope in their hearts, that today would be the day this person would be brought to justice. Despite international and national attention of the case, there still hasn't been an arrest. This is a picture of the man investigators believe is responsible. Here's a video Libby captured on her cell phone the day she and Abby went hiking. Police believe the man walking towards them on this bridge is the killer. This would have been Abby and Libby's senior year of high school.
Damn.
Abby's mother, Anna, says it's hard to believe 4 years has passed, but she tries to stay positive that one day they'll have the answers and arrest in this case.
Yes, it is a senior year and they'd be going off to college. It's still as tough as their first day of school. It doesn't get any easier, and the closer it gets to that actual day, my feelings will probably be more sad. But I'm just trying to, recognize that it's not just us. I mean, everybody is feeling what we're feeling as a group.
And the girls' families held a food drive yesterday in honor of both girls, and this spring set to open is a memorial park in their honor. Both of these families taking steps to honor these teens as much as they can, still hoping always for a break in this case.
Absolutely. So, all right, now, obviously, so 4 years later, we're dealing with all of this, right? There was actually a little bit of a break here in a minute. It was seeming like another year would skip by until December of 2021. That's when police announced a possible leak in the case, a break in the case. A fake social media account by the name of Anthony Schatz, which we talked about earlier, was found to have communicated with German shortly before the killings. The account was linked back to a man who lived about 30 minutes away and was a suspect in a child porn case. Let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this one. This was the biggest news that had happened in several years.
But we begin tonight with breaking news at 11, a new development in the Delphi murders investigation. State police say they've discovered a fake social media profile while investigating the deaths of Libby German and Abby Williams. Now, they
this took a
need
long
more
time, right?
To find the person behind that account.
Why did it take so many
they believe
years?
This person was essentially catfishing underage girls, trying to get nude photos of them, their addresses, even meet up with them. So I want you to take a look. Indiana State Police shared these pictures from a profile called Anthony_Schatz. Now, we do need to stress police know who the male model is in these pictures. He is not a person of interest. Detectives instead want to learn more about the person who created this account to lure young girls. They tell us it was used on Snapchat, on Instagram, and other social media platforms from 2016 to 2017. In addition to the pictures of that model, the person also portrayed himself as being extremely wealthy and owning numerous sports cars. So if any of this sounds familiar, if you had contact at all with that fake profile, Anthony Schatz, State Police want you to email the Abby and Libby tip line. It's right there on your screen. We also have this and a phone number for you to call with this story tonight on WTHR.com/Delphi.
Now, I want to show you something else, because the person that actually did this, or the person that was behind the profile, his name was Keegan Klein. Let's take a listen.
I feel like I'm being harassed completely.
Did you have anything to do with the murders of Abby or Libby?
Not at all, and I've gave up my DNA, a hair follicle test. I've done everything they wanted me to.
In December, Delphi investigators announced that catfish account Anthony Schatz was active on Instagram and Snapchat in 2016 and 2017, and they asked for anyone who interacted with that profile to come forward. But more than a year ago, then 26-year-old Keegan Klein admitted to investigators that he was behind the fake profile and that he used it to ask young girls for nude pictures and videos. Tell me about Anthony Schatz. Why did you create that profile?
I don't really know. I was just lonely, you know what I mean? Just talking to people. I don't know why I did it, really.
And were you ever trying to meet these girls in real life that you were talking to?
Right.
No, never.
Just 11 days after the murders of Abby and Libby, task force investigators served a search warrant on the home that Keegan shared with his dad. At the time, the FBI told the Lafayette Journal and Courier they found nothing to indicate a connection to the Delphi case. Keegan's electronics were confiscated then, but he wasn't arrested until 3 years later.
That's crazy.
He's now facing 30 counts of child pornography and child solicitation in Miami County, Indiana, unrelated to the Delphi murders. He says, though, that Indiana State Police told him Anthony Schatz had been communicating with Libby before her murder. So why do you think investigators are putting so much focus on you right now?
I have not a clue. I think it's because they said I was the last person to talk to her, is what they've told me.
And then she shows up at the bridge and they're abducted and later found dead.
Right.
Keep all that in mind.
And that was...
Now, obviously, it's not Keegan. The dude's fucking 400 pounds. Let's be honest here. He's not the guy on the bridge. He's not the bridge guy. But this also adds a little bit extra that means maybe the bridge guy is not the guy. I find it really ironic that this dude was having conversations with her right before then, catfishing her, and even offered to meet her.
No, 100% not.
Keegan says he has no memory or knowledge of communicating with Libby, and
Of course that's what he's
haven't
gonna say.
confirmed if what he says is true. Do you think you're going to be charged with anything related to Abby and Libby's murder?
No, I don't.
So the state police haven't threatened that?
No.
There's the answer there. So this is after all this time, this was kind of the break in the case, right? And so things kind of quieted down for quite a long fucking time, right? Till October of this year. October 26, 2022. The case seemed to center around that individual for much of 2022, the guy that we just saw. He was questioned, but denied having any involvement in the Delphi killings. That man was never charged, but there was activity not far from his home in late summer when a river near his home was searched. October 26th, law enforcement actually arrested 50-year-old Richard M. Allen of Delphi. He was formally charged with 2 counts of felony murder on October 28th. He's pleaded not guilty, and this is where this just came out of nowhere.
Arrested in the murders of those 2 teenage girls in Delphi, Indiana. That suspect is 50-year-old Richard Allen. Police have charged him with the 2017 murders of 14-year-old Liberty German and 13-year-old Abigail Williams. The 2 girls were best friends. Their bodies found in a rugged area near a hiking trail the day after they disappeared during a day off from school. That case has haunted the small town of Delphi ever since. After years of an intense investigation, the Indiana State Police Superintendent became quite emotional while announcing the arrest today.
Seldom do I have prepared remarks, but today is different because I do not want there to be any confusion or ambiguity with what I will say. Today is not a day to celebrate, but the arrest of Richard M. Allen of Delphi on 2 counts of murder is sure a major step in leading to the conclusion of this long-term and complex investigation.
ABC's Alex Perez has been following this story very closely. Joins me now from Delphi with the latest. So, Alex, we are told that suspect, Richard Allen, is from the area, right? What else are we learning about him?
Yeah, Kara, we heard the superintendent there describe this as a major step. I think that's an understatement for so many people in this community. They've been awaiting this day when someone would be charged with the murders of Abby and Libby. Now, there's still a lot of things we don't
I think they jumped the gun on this. And listen, I have a million reasons why. I have a million reasons why when it comes to this entire thing. When it comes to Richard Allen or anything of this nature. Let me see. Judge on Delphi murder case issues sweeping gag order. Basically, they're not allowing anyone to speak during the Richard Allen case, which I always hate gag orders. Like, they've been secret enough when it comes to this case, in my opinion. And so now they're doing a gag order with anyone else involved in this case. Now, you know what? Let's just get back to the videos. Let me not jump off track here. Let's just get back to this.
This suspect, Richard Allen, but we do know that, as authorities have told us, he is a member of this community. He lived and worked here in Delphi, and we've learned he worked at a local CVS store as a pharmacy tech. Now, what exactly led authorities to connect him to the murders? They're still not revealing that part of the investigation, but
we're about to hear.
As you might imagine, a lot of people who live here are now sort of trying to figure out how exactly that 5 years passed without them quite figuring out that the suspect was right here among them. So
the whole time.
Some relief, of course, here, Kira, but also a lot of unanswered questions still.
Oh, Alex, how many times, have we uncovered those types of stories where the predator is right there among us still, even years later. And you know, this murder investigation, it drew a lot of national attention over the past 5 years. We have seen potential leads come and go. So, you know, this is a big deal for this community.
Yeah, it is a big deal, Kara. There have been hundreds over the years, hundreds of investigators assigned to this case, federal and local, and they've received tens of thousands of tips. I spoke with the superintendent just a little while ago. He said close to 70,000 tips over the last 5 years have been investigated.
Shows you how worthless tips are, right?
In solving this case. And, you know, even just people from this community have spent a lot of their time putting up flyers, knocking on doors, posting on social media, just trying to generate attention for this story and make sure that there would be some sort of resolution. And it appears that this arrest today now marks the first step in beginning some of that process of closure, Kara.
Speaking of closure, you know, police say they still haven't closed the door on this investigation completely. A lot of questions still out there. Any indication that we could get more answers, more details in the coming days, Alex?
You know, Kara, it was a packed house filled with media and the public here at this church behind me here. And a lot of people inside that room had those exact questions for authorities, for the Indiana State Police superintendent. They wanted to know more about this suspect, how police got here. What was the key piece of evidence that helped them make an arrest?
We'll get to that evidence here in a minute.
The superintendent and other officials speaking today simply would not answer any of those questions. They say and insist this is still an ongoing investigation and they don't want to jeopardize that investigation. The superintendent told me that he wants to make sure when this goes to court, and the suspect has pleaded not guilty, that when this goes to court, the prosecutors have all of the evidence they need to make sure they get a conviction, and that means withholding some of that evidence, some of that information from the
They
public.
have to be withholding a lot, trust me.
Right now.
Because they don't have shit right now.
Well, big day.
They don't have
in
shit.
Delphi and across the country. We'll stay in close touch, Alex, as we get more details. Alex Perez for us.
At least
Thank you.
what we know. At least what we know is that they don't have shit, right? But they did drop the probable cause. Now, that is something that was new. They did release portions of the probable cause. Let's take a look at that as well.
We want to take a closer look at a key piece of evidence that police say links Richard Allen to the murders of Abby Williams and Libby German.
It's been almost 6 years since the two Delphi teens were killed. And just 24 hours ago, we got our first glimpse at what led police to Allen all these years later.
Court documents reveal they found an unfired bullet just 2 feet away from Libby's body. And investigators say they linked that bullet to a gun that Allen owned.
I don't even see how ballistics can do that. I don't see how it's even possible, right? It definitely is it's not a solid science. You understand? It's not a solid science. It's an unfired casing. Like, how could it possibly have the carvings in it that you would get when you fire off a shot? You see what I'm saying? Like, how could you, like, and if you Google it, most of the times this type of science isn't taken serious in court.
How does that tracing process work?
Rich and I went to a gun store today to see a pistol like Allen's and how a traceable bullet may have been left at the crime scene.
We'll go ahead and load the magazine in there.
At Beech Grove Firearms, we got an up-close look at a Sig Sauer P226, the same gun owned by Delphi.
Look how short he is. Look how little he is.
Drop the slide release, chambering our first round.
No,
records say
I want you to see that. Look how little this little motherfucker is. You cannot tell me that's the same dude. You can't tell me that's the same dude walking on the bridge. I refuse to believe it.
Richard Allen.
Drop the slide release, chambering our first round.
Court records say a .40 caliber unfired bullet was found between the bodies of Abby Williams and Libby German. When the slide of the loaded chamber is pulled back, the bullet cartridge is ejected.
When one flies out, you may not see where it goes.
Absolutely.
And in a wooded area, it might be under leaves or brush or anything, right?
Very well could be.
Why would you unchamber a bullet that hasn't been fired?
I have no idea. I guess there could be a few reasons. One off the top of my head is if the primer when struck by the firing pin, did not go off.
We're using snap caps, dummy rounds for safety and demonstration. The State Police Laboratory says that unfired bullet they found on the ground near the girls' bodies has markings on it, which they can match to Richard Allen's gun.
That's crazy.
When a bullet is cycled in the chamber, microscopic scratches are made on the cartridge. The State Police Lab tested Allen's gun and concluded the bullet near the bodies came out of his pistol. The lab says the interpretation of identity...
And now, I just want to say this. Unless they were shot, I don't really know. Like, he's a regular there. I get it. It's circumstantial evidence. But now, if you tell me that these girls were shot with that same bullet, all right, case closed. You win. But if they were like stabbed or choked, remember the leaked text said they were stabbed. That's why I'm not buying this. That bullet could have got there anywhere, anytime. However, I will say this, that they did collect the bullet when they initially did the search. Like, this wasn't a bullet that popped up years later. The bullet was found there back in 2017.
Is subjective in nature and based on relevant scientific research and the reporting examiner's training and experience.
Bam. It's not a perfect science.
13 News.
It's not a perfect science. And that's what that all boils down to. Now, what I'm going to do now is Delphi murders, let's see, a probable cause affidavit. Let's see what was in the probable cause. Let's check this out. Let's see what we got here. Richard Allen, these are longer videos. Probable cause affidavit released in murder case. What the probable cause revealed. Here we go.
Getting a look at the reasons why police arrested a Carroll County man in connection with the Delphi murders.
All of those details are in these documents, and we've been working to get these documents for a few weeks now.
That's right, but we couldn't see them until the judge overseeing the case approved their release. That happened just a few hours ago. Now, we've been combing over these documents since then, working to see exactly what they reveal about the deaths of Abby Williams and Libby German.
Now, so far, we have learned several new key pieces of information that investigators claim link Richard Allen to this crime.
There's not
several. Live team coverage over the next 90 minutes. Aaron Campbell's in Delphi for us tonight.
But we want to begin with our senior investigative reporter, Bob Siegel, in our newsroom. Bob?
Well, this probable cause affidavit does not say exactly how Abby and Libby died, but it does explain why investigators think Richard Allen is the man who killed the two teenagers. The probable cause affidavit says Abby and Libby were found dead in the woods less than a quarter mile from the Monon High Bridge, and there was a .40 caliber unspent round found between the victims' bodies, less than 2 feet away from Libby German.
Damn.
Investigators first spoke to Richard Allen back in 2017, and at that time, Allen told investigators he was on the trails by the Monon High Bridge between 1:30 and 3:30 on the day of the murders. The PC did not say why investigators spoke to him back in 2017. Then, last month on October 13th, investigators interviewed Allen again. According to the PC, Allen again said he was on the Monon High Bridge to watch the fish. He said he parked his car on the side of an old building and was wearing blue jeans and a blue or black Carhartt jacket with a hood. Investigators say that matches the clothes worn by the man who Libby captured in this video.
Then why would he admit it
if... Last month, Allen also told investigators he owns firearms. That same day, police executed a search warrant at his Delphi home and recovered jackets, boots, knives, and firearms, including a Sig Sauer model P226 .40 caliber pistol. He told investigators he never allowed anyone to use or borrow that firearm. Investigators sent that gun to the Indiana State Police Crime Lab for analysis, and it was determined the unspent round located within 2 feet of Libby's body had been cycled through Richard M. Allen's gun. Then, on October 26th, state police again spoke to Allen, and when asked about the unspent bullet, he did not have an explanation of why the bullet was found between the bodies. He again admitted that he was on the trail, but denied knowing Abby or Libby and denied any involvement in their murders. 1 day later, Allen was charged with 2 counts of murder and has been in custody ever since.
This is all they got. Well, at least that we know.
So
right?
His clothes, his car, his gun, investigators say all of them point to Richard Allen. Now, this document references a lot of witnesses who say they think they saw the killer on the trail or near the bridge on the day of the murders. One witness reported seeing a man walking away from the area with clothes that were muddy and bloody. Another important point here that we want to point out, this document mentions only Allen as being involved in the crime. But remember, last week in court, we heard the prosecutor say that another person could be involved as well.
Exactly. They believe another person could have been involved as well. Guys, this is the Richard Allen, this is the Delphi murders A to Z. Now I'm going to start releasing videos on my theories and different little things. But I wanted to encompass this whole case. I wanted to get it out there. I know this is a long-ass video, 1 hour and 50 minutes. But I wanted to get this out here to give you a timeline of everything that's happened. They believe it's Richard Allen. I have not seen evidence to that yet. I believe it's Ron Logan. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section what you think. Do you agree with me that it's Ron Logan? Do you believe it's Richard Allen? What about the Chomo? Do you believe maybe it's him? I don't know. We're going to start doing it because the trial will be next year, which is definitely something we're going to cover. And now we can start doing news videos on this case, the Delphi case, because we are all caught up now. Let me know who you guys think did it. Guys, I'm JB Gunner. This is Crime Time with JB Gunner. If you guys like what I do here and you find value in my content, feel free to hit the links down below. Join the Gun Squad today. Support the channel. You guys are what makes this thing work each and every day as we rebuild my channels. Hope you guys are all having a fantastic day. I will see you tomorrow. Yeah, this should be a long enough video for you motherfuckers. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Let me know if I missed anything because we're going to start doing, like I said, videos on this case as well. You guys all have a great day. Peace out.